thank you for taking the time to download and listen to this podcast from Celtic Underground. You are possibly picking this up on theceltitunderground.substack.com. If you are a paid subscriber, you can link your account to wherever you pick up your podcasts, whether that be Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever, and you can pick up the subscription feed where you get your normal feed. Just go on to Substack on the website and follow the instructions. Meantime, this is Andrew H. Smith in conversation. Hi, welcome to our latest Celtic Underground, where joining me is a man of so many Celtic parts. More recently, a tour guide at the club. His real status among the Celtic memorabilia collectors. I remember him when both of us had here during the 80s when we were on the Glasgow Uni bus together. Many fun times there. And also, above all, he's just a Celtic nut. Manus Gallagher. Brilliant to have you on, and thanks so much for making the time for us.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Very much appreciated. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's now my brother, who knows you even longer than me, because the two of yous seminarians, I think we call yous, do we? From your times at Blair's. Yep. We're talking 70s, late 70s, 80s. He said one of your big collections, and this has tickled me, is the Wee Green Book. Yeah. Is that right? Are you quite a kind of aficionado of the Wee Green Book?
Yeah, well, what happened with the Wee Green Book, Andrew, I loved them at the time. They come out, you'll know this, but maybe a lot of the audience don't know. No. The tiny little books come out at the start of the season, similar to the Wee Red Book. It was the Evening Times, but the Wee Green Book was exclusively Celtic. So one by one, I started collecting them. And to be honest, I lapsed as regards collecting, but I've restarted again over the last couple of years, you know. And I know everybody, see, when you talk about collections, I think it's always quite useful to mention numbers. I've got 70 of them just now.
Yeah. How many was there, Manus?
Well, the oldest that I've got is 1922-23, so that's over 100 years old.
They don't do them now, but
no. They finished they stopped round about 2000, 2001, and for a couple of years, I think that was the last season, actually, 2000, 2001, Martin O'Neill's first season. And for a couple of years, they brought out a slightly more glossy, slightly bigger Wee Green Book. It wasn't the same. You know.
Do you know, we used to enjoy doing it. I mean, it was hard work. It was hard work doing it, because Donald Cowie, my editor, when he came in and he said, look, we should have every stat in these books. These books are a matter of historical record. So the old, before, when Kevin McKenna was doing it, I might add, just slung together, right? But we were putting every appearances, goals, not just for the first team, for the reserves, which didn't really exist if you think about that in the early 90s. That kind of level of detail and that kind of level of stat wasn't necessarily universal.
Yep. And it was, do you know what it was brilliant for as well, Andrew? And they've been used quite extensively recently. There's been a couple of Celtic books out from the 1930s by Matt Corr. Outstanding books. And they had that much information. They had to split them over two books for that one decade. They couldn't do that one decade in one book. And he starts every chapter, so every season's a chapter. And he starts every chapter with Willie Maley's musings, if you like, from the Wee Green Book. And it's fantastic because it sets the context. You know, it's language that we wouldn't use, language that we actually maybe have to quickly run to a dictionary to see what on earth does that mean, you know. But it sets the context really well, and it's very, very good, you know.
Do you know my outstanding memory of it? And this is just coming to me as we speak. Going over to interview Billy before the 90-91 season for the Wee Green Book, and he was brilliant to interview. See, for things like that, he just had an eloquence, and he just had a fluency to his language. You know, you could write him in his voice, because his voice always come through just the way he was speaking. Yeah. But I was doing it, and he got a phone call, and it was John Quinn at the Evening Times.
Yeah.
And he's going, because I can't hear the other side of the phone. People like don't realise that, but you couldn't hear the other side. He's going, did he, the wee bastard? Did he? Did he? And it was Mo. Remember Mo Johnson and the incident El Choco? Remember he ended up with all the cuts and bruises because did he have a fight or was he pished or something like that? And it was like he ended up in the springs of the bed. And Billy's gone,
That's ringing bells.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was bloody brilliant, bloody brilliant. Like, and he was so upbeat. I remember Billy was so upbeat, and obviously it never happened.
yeah.
I used to, I'd get there thinking, yeah, we can do it this season. Even though 89, 90 was probably as bad as any of us have
Yeah,
seen Celtic.
yeah, yeah. 89, 90 was was a bad one, but we lost that many experienced players then, didn't we?
Yeah,
Big Roy, and Tommy, and then suddenly a whole host was falling on Paul McStay, and Paul McStay was left to be to mature very, very quickly, really as a captain,
yeah.
and the quality of players dipped as well somewhat.
Yeah, no half. Even some of the players I've had on here admit, and they were part of that quality, but they
Yes,
admit it just wasn't quite. It
yes,
wasn't quite right. But I mean,
yeah.
what's your entry? What was your entry point for? Are you one of those guys? And I know there's a lot of us. You can't remember a time where you weren't fascinated or obsessed by Celtic.
Yeah, well, I suppose my background, and I'm in the fortunate position that I can actually mention on the Celtic tours a bit of my background, to maybe let people know my qualifications, if you like, as a Celtic supporter. So, mum and dad, both sets of parents from Donegal, born in Donegal, both moved to Glasgow separately, met in Glasgow, married in St Pat's in Glasgow, and spent the rest of their adult life until retirement age in Glasgow. So our family was all born in Glasgow, Donegal holidays every single year. And I can remember, Andrew, that I'm sort of Mary Hill man, born and bred, been Mary Hill all my days. And when we got brought up, and when I was born, we were living in Springbank Street. I know you'll probably know maybe where that is, but Springbank Street is the main street going from Queen's Cross to Partick Thistle's front door.
Of course, right. I'm just round the corner for you.
Yeah,
Aye,
yeah.
aye.
So it's where the Rennie Mackintosh Church is.
Aye, no,
That's
aye.
Springbank
Know where
Street.
you are.
So I was born. We stayed in two different flats there, and obviously back then Thistle were getting great crowds, when they were in the top league. But people ask me, well, how did you never become a Thistle fan? And it never really entered my head. It was. I mean, I can remember '71, not because of the game and the thrashing that we took, but I remember the bloody Thistle team coming back
Oh,
up Springbank Street, and a crowd
did
of
you get
very
your cat out?
yeah, yeah. And I said to my dad, "What happened, Dad? What happened?" But no, it felt, yeah, so basically my parents and my wee mum played a part as well, to be honest. I can remember when we had to queue up for tickets back in the day, and it would be a Sunday morning over at Celtic Park, my wee mum coming and joining me to get two tickets instead of one, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sort of upbringing at home, I suppose, that a lot of us probably shared. I've got a soft spot for Thistle, but it doesn't tug me at all the way that Celtic does. And back then I would be getting the playing for Celtic books annually, and the reading
It's
in
a
the
rite of
history.
passage, that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was one of those ones that, because initially it was the hardbacks, wasn't it? And they were black and white. Eventually they had a colour pullout. But I was one of the guys one of the wee boys that coloured in the green hoops on all the jerseys. Had to be done. Had to be done. Little did I know it just took away so much value from the actual value of the book, and I had to buy replacements later on in life. But there we go. There we
Oh
go.
God, right. But I suppose if you've still got those ones with the colouring in, they're you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's something particular to you. I mean,
yeah,
that's just, I remember so many Christmas, because I would always get it for Christmas.
yep,
So, just like sitting by your wee bedside, that's the last thing you would do on Christmas Day,
yeah,
was you would be lying in your bed reading, playing for Celtic. And you think, It was talking about a season that finished 5 months before, like 6 months
Yes,
before.
that's right. That's right. That's right. And there tended to be, didn't there? There tend to be maybe 2 or 3 chapters by individual players, and it would be
That's right.
different players each year, sort of thing. Yeah, yeah, but they were edited by Roger Bailey, weren't they?
Well, yeah, he wrote them all. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That was quite. I think that was quite a ticket for him in the sense I think he did well at it, but obviously he made good contacts through it as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Great
And
books.
I think it was Jock because Jock way back to Lisbon and all that. I think he was quite happy for him, be the guy behind a book like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And they basically went on until I think the last one I can remember, and I was just having a wee check the other day. I think it was 89-90, or was it 88-89? Maybe the Joe Miller Cup final. I think it was the Joe Miller Cup final. I think that was the
That would make
last one.
sense, aye. I
Yeah.
remember the 85 one because their pictures from Hampden were incredible. See,
Yes.
the colour pullout was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pin
That's right.
sharp quality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
used to use those pictures all the time for articles in the View, you
Yes.
know what I mean? You're
Yes.
just kind of scanning
Yeah,
it.
and I think we're seeing quite a few of them over this last week or so. I think because that '85 Cup final was exactly 40 years ago this week. I think it was the 15th or so.
That's
Um,
right. So I know
yeah,
you're right. We've seen it. Like they pop up. Yeah, I recognise them now. You recognise them now.
yeah,
There's a great
yeah,
one, Paul and all that. You can almost kind of you can conjure them up in your mind.
yeah. And of
So
course,
what?
that was the day. That was the day, wasn't it? That I always remember Davy Hayes' substitutions that day. He took off Paul McStay and Tommy Burns, I think,
Seriously.
together, which was like, how on earth? We're down 1-0, and they took off McStay and Burns and brought on Pierce, a lady.